What is up, movie viewers? Dena Mo Views and Reviews here, asking what you watching. Well, today I am watching You. This movie stars Penn Badgley, Hattie Gabrielle, Charlotte Ritchie, Lucas Gage, and Tilly Keeper. It is executively produced by Greg Berlanti, Sierra Gamba, Sarah Schechter, Leslie Morgenstein, Gina Girolamo, and Marcus Siga. You premiered September 2018, and after I have been watched it for several days now, I can liken it to being caught up in a whirlwind. It pulls you in. You want to stop watching this movie series, but you just gotta see how far it will go. You gotta see what damage it does and what it leaves behind and how it will end. And if anyone is able to find out its trail of damage and or if it can be repaired. Now, the most current episode of You aired on March 9th. The main star of You is once again played by Penn Badgley. And in this movie, he plays Joe Goldberg, who later changes his identity to elude authorities, and he becomes Will Bettingheim, and later on, he's Jonathan Moore. Now, first of all, when you meet this character, Joe Goldberg, he is this bookstore owner. He works in a bookstore, and you think of him as this nice guy. He comes off as perhaps being a bit of a shy yet intriguing person that simply becomes smitten with getting to know this woman that he absolutely wants to be with. It's like a love at first sight kind of thing. He wants to get to know her, so he go about the process of learning what she posts on social media and what she has on the internet. He's looking her up, and he even has a phone of hers that she lost and had to replace. He kept a version of it. So he wants to know who are her friends, where does she work, what does she do, and it kind of first comes off honestly as an attempt to find out what makes this lady happy. So you think that his intention is to do all of it, and in order to do it, what he needs to get her to like him, he's kind of searching and looking through stuff, and he wants to get closer to her, and it's kind of, you're like, okay, that's a somewhat believable and almost laughable. He believed she was meant to be with him and he with her. So it was kind of endearing or funny almost at first. Although some of his techniques that he used were quite questionable, but it was his mission to become close to her. Her name was Guinevere Beck, and he managed to win her over. At least he thought he did. However, as you were watching the movie, you learned that it quickly turns into straight up insanity. He is an insane stalker, and he's in stalker mode. When this guy takes his obsession with this woman to a whole nother level and starts to make it his business to remove people from her life that he believes in, all of the sweetness and funniness, it wears off. So he is obsessed now with removing any obstacles that prevents him from getting closer to her. Now, the moment he caged her ex-boyfriend, that was nothing that that was something that caused me to look at him as anything other than a manipulative, insane individual. He was just insane in the membrane from that point on for me, especially when he murdered him. So this guy Joe was so screwed up mentally that in his mind he really thought of himself as a good guy. This is how he saw himself, that he was doing something that was good. He was doing good things to help others. Now, Joe Goldberg was mentally a hot mess. If you were not careful, it would pull you in so much so that you would find yourself unwittingly cheering for this mentally ill soul. Maybe it was because of what he had witnessed at the as a child, the abuse that he had witnessed and that he was subjected to as a child. It kind of had you feeling a little bit sorrowful until you remember that this small, unassuming, quiet protector appearing guy is nothing more than a nutcase, a lunatic that kidnaps, kills, and locks people in a glass cage in order to satisfy his own sick agenda, which is to get the object of his affection to love him for the rest of his life. Now, when he discovers that Guinevere Beck just wasn't that girl, cause honey, Miss Guinevere, her goose was just too loose for many men. She was out there. And even though she was in a relationship with him or inclined to be, she also was still doing a little stuff on the side, including her therapist. And when she begins to question what happened to Joe's previous girlfriend, whose name was Candace, it doesn't end well for her. So he decides to dispatch of her. Joe leaves town and relocates to Los Angeles, and here he assumes a new identity. That identity is Will Bettingham. And same as before, he quickly becomes fixated on a totally different woman. Her name is Love Quinn. Oh my God. Honey, that Love Quinn girl, she is a chef. And she works at a store that is owned by her parents, and he happens to get a job there also. She has become the object of his affection. So once again, Joe, who is now Will, exemplifies the same exact stalkerish behavior, obsessively checking her social media, looking through her windows, following and watching her as she goes about her life. There is a very humorous, surprising twist from this character, Love Quinn, and I cannot deny that I laughed. I thought this was so funny. She actually finds out who he is after they had been in a relationship for so long. She finds out what happened with him and his previous girlfriend. So it's at that point just accusations. So he continues to work in their store. But this particular part just turned out to be so ironic. I mean, it was just hilarious to me and straight up enthralling, because the woman he was stalking and claiming to love, she turned out to be a nutcase too. She was revealed to be a murderer herself, and she loved him. But when he found out that she too was a murderer, it turned him off, and he no longer wanted her and only halted killing her because she revealed to him that she was pregnant at the very moment he was about to dispatch of her. So a murderous couple, they moved to the suburbs and left behind a lot of dead bodies while they were there, because they were both emotionally and mentally unstable. This movie was just a train wreck you just could not turn away from. And this is why I gave this movie a 3 out of 5. I wanted to give it a 2 out of 5 because I completely hated the ending, but I have to admit that it kept my attention. It was quite interesting, but I don't know if it is indeed the last or completion of the movie series. I think it was, but I was quite disappointed with how it all concluded. This movie series is so full of some crazy twists, turns, and near misses that you find unrealistic. You're like, no, that couldn't have happened. Then you're like, well, maybe it could have. But for me, it just left so much to be desired when it came to the justice aspect of it. There was no real justice for all of the victims that he left behind and the people that he had murdered. There was no justice served. He was never arrested nor held accountable for his actions. All the people he slaughtered, the people he caged in that little glass cage. He destroyed lives. He simply got away with it because he annexed a very rich and wealthy woman whom father he also killed. He revealed as his past deeds to her. He told her all of his deeds. And she used her money and her power and her influence to negate all of his criminal circumstances, and was able to have him go back to using his actual name. She used her money, the media, and the law to manipulate what he did. So he never actually faced any consequences for his murderous, insane deeds. It just sends a message that says being wealthy excludes you from the long arm of the law and shields you from the justice system. If you are a rich stalker, a rich killer, you're doing all manner of deeds that are unsavory or insane in the membrane, you can literally get away with murdering others. And for that matter, any other violation of the law, as long as you have wealth to pay off the people, the media, and all that are in place to enforce the law. It is a movie, of course, but it can be interpreted to mean that people in high places can be bought, which begs the question, why should anyone expect to get any real justice under such a law? This man deserved to be behind bars, and he deserved a chair for the number of people he murdered, manipulated, and tortured. I have to say, by season 4, all I wanted was for him to get caught, put him behind bars. I got off that mental merry-go-round with him. Anybody that's been stalked, I am pretty sure you felt a bit of anxiety watching this. And it really just speaks to the power of society's propaganda machine, the injustice legal system, modern relationships and courtships, mental health issues, privilege, and overall it shows how money corrupts and influences the society as well as who gets real justice. It was an interesting movie. There is no denying this, but I just did not like the ending. Now, the movie You is rated TVMA, and if you would like to check it out, you most certainly can do so, for it is currently streaming on Netflix. Be sure to subscribe and leave me a comment on your thoughts on this movie. This has been Dena Views and Reviews. Like, share, and subscribe. And join me for my next review and our recommendation. And I want you to remember, it's my view. Now, what you watching?